Goodbye, star 666, clear to land, runway 04, surface wind 1007 knots.
Clear to land, runway 04, 5 star 666.
Landing checklist.
It was my idea, basically. It went back to something I did for an album called Skunkworks, one of my solo albums, when we actually took a very much smaller aeroplane with little propellers on it, little piston engines on it, and we went and bashed our way around the US. And I thought, wow, why couldn't you do this on a bigger scale?
But I think his real purpose in coming up with the idea is so he got two wages, one to be a singer and one to be a pilot.
Asked to go to Australia in '08, and we hadn't been there for a long time. We also want to go to South America. So if you think about doing Australia maybe somewhere on the way, and then around South America, by scheduled airlines nowadays, with all the security precautions and everything else, and the way it's very hard to link up the freight and the flights efficiently, then it just seemed to be a good idea to see there's some way of doing it.
So I offered up this idea of an aeroplane, and I thought, well, can we get enough gear in the holds to make it viable? And it became pretty clear that we couldn't. And I said, okay, so why can't we use the back end of the aeroplane? Take the seats out, and we put a big cargo net in.
The idea of the splitter bus in the air just seemed to be ideal if it could be done. And Bruce was, from the word go, yeah, we can do this. And he was like Bruce with so much energy straight away. He was around Australia the next day talking about the concept and the principle, and they agreed it was doable. And so we went to quite immense logistics and bureaucracy to get it done.
It's all very well, we're going to fly an aeroplane around the world, but then you have to think which markets you want to play in. There are logistic constraints, because obviously the aeroplane needs to stop at places and refuel, and that might not be where you want to go on the routing.
I had this idea that we'd do around the world in 80 days, which I like. As a manager, I like to have things to hook things on, which have got a bit of vibe to them. When the tour was finally finalised around, August, September of that year, I counted the days from Moscow to the final date in Tampa, and believe it or not, it was 66 days.
Here we are, romantic Southend Airport, and just lurking over there is Golf Sierra Tango Romeo X-Ray, otherwise known as Ed Force One, in bits because it's having a C-check. ATC Lasham are pulling the beast apart and putting it back together. And this is where I got my first job. Isn't that odd?
It's a 757-200 with RB211 engines, and it's going to be here for about approximately 3 weeks. The aircraft will be stripped down, so scheduled inspections carried out, any defects found will be rectified, put back together again, and then we're going to do the combination cargo conversion into the Iron Maiden config, where the rear end is converted to a cargo compartment. We have the livery going to be put on in the hangar, so as you can see now, it's a nice blank canvas, and we're going to be adding all the decals with the Eddie on the tail and the title down the back end, and it will leave here early February and positioned to Stansted, ready for its first trial load.
Ships by the tenfold sail out.
we've got, the band runs on a cycle of 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. There's that much forward planning goes on in what the band might be doing.
Discussions on the production start very early. We do build the tours around the album.
Bruce came up with a title, and I think it's just a bit of mischief from him, really, because he was sort of had the idea that people would then think it actually is the final tour. We all sort of had it in the back of our minds that it wouldn't be really the final tour, but I suppose it was a, you know, good little bit of gamesmanship from him, really. Once you've got that idea, the basic idea, then it just lends itself to all the imagery, for the set, for backdrops, for eddies and everything else. It's the hardest part is finding a little spark in the first place. And once you've got that, then I'm not saying it's plain sailing, it's a lot of hard work and a lot of fretting and sleepless nights when you're writing, but you know, you've got the initial idea and then that's, you know, you're up and running, really.
Well, somewhere here at ATC Lasham, there is a big white bird, which should be in a few bits. Through this door should be, bingo, an aeroplane. There you go, with its nose slightly out of joint. Golf Sierra Tango Romeo X-ray, otherwise known as Ed Force One. And yeah, there she is, in bits, partially.
Sight of land, face of contentment around in the air.
The main thing that has completely changed the dynamic of our regular touring with Iron Maiden is the fact that we're flying everywhere on Ed Force One. And certainly for me, there's a heck of a lot more work to do with regards to everything with the plane. I have to look after the catering side of things, where everyone is seated, how much luggage we are allowed to carry, and way in advance of all of that, we have to make sure that everyone's got the correct visas as well.
Visas are the most difficult thing to get. I usually start, for a tour that's happening in January, I usually start around about August. Now, we've all got 2 passports, some of us more, and it's quite legal to have 2 passports. Because we've probably got 15 visas to get in such a short period of time, because you can't apply for the visas unless you're within 2 months of actually going to the country. So you can't actually get the visas, but we get all the paperwork and everything done in advance so that we've got 2 passports, so that we get one lot of passports in for the first part of the tour, and then while we're out on tour, we then get the second one sent to us, we've got the next lot of visas in.
We're travelling to so many different countries and we have to have the correct paperwork. Of course we do. It would be like anybody else travelling to these countries. The fact that we're travelling en masse, if one person doesn't have the correct paperwork, then it holds everything up. And then there's that whole knock-on effect that everything gets stalled.
Before dates are confirmed, we basically work on a number of budgets based on alternative routes and different options, and Rod and I go through those figures, and then Rod basically works with the agent then to put together the final details of the tour. We're obviously covering some territories we've never been to, so there's been interesting challenges in terms of going to Korea and those Pacific Rim countries that we've never been to before.
I have been waiting for 30 years, since I was born.
I think the current economic environment does bring challenges even to an act that's as successful as Maiden and doing very well in terms of ticket sales. Fuel prices change so dramatically that one has to be looking at forward buying fuel.
Everything around the plane is complicated, just you don't actually just get a 757 and put your gear on and fly off.
It's all advanced work. The plane dictates what you can take. Nothing else dictates it. And then you've obviously got guitar preferences by the musicians, which depends on the songs. So lots of compromises all the way through to South America.
Because the cargo compartment has to be separated in its entirety from the passenger compartment, we had to put a bulkhead in at this position and reline the entire end of the aircraft. Before we do the trial loading, we had to work out exactly how many pallets we could put in and to what maximum sizes we could accommodate.
We want the Monitor FX rack and Dougie's too. My job on tour is quite simply to look after all the logistics of the equipment and the aircraft. So essentially I am responsible for both loading and unloading the aircraft. Also then sorting out customs, local trucking and getting the gear from show to show to show. We're obviously prepping for the next round of the world tour, and essentially today we were just practicing loading the pallets that go at the back of Ed Force One, the combi section, which basically is backline, monitors, front of house control, and this is the heavyweight equipment without which we can't do the show. Adrian's amps. Take Gonzo's? Can we try and build something and then...
Well, I'm going to need...
We'll take the weights, and then we'll try and build it.
OK. So what is the designation of this box then? What are we going to call this box?
That's still the monitor.
Monitor FX. What we're trying to do is work out the weights of all the equipment and put it in the best possible orientation in a small area on the floor, which represents the size of the pallets on the aircraft. We marked out the size of the pallet, the allowable size of the pallet, dimensions that we can use, and had to work within those restrictions, and also there's a height restriction as well, so it all has to be loaded and there has to be a flat top, it has to be square, which causes some problems. We have to put packers in, and again, if you're putting packers in, you have to take that into account for the weight limit as well, so if you put a packer in, you might have to take a bit of equipment off. Always a problem.
Well, there we are. I wish I was a flight case, because that's the way I'd be coming in, actually, in and out of here. And, well, pretty much, this would be the cargo bay. We wouldn't have any carpet down, and it would be all lined, and we'd have some steel plates on the floor as spreaders, but basically this little section here would be where we'd put all the Iron Maiden kit.
Doing Ed Force One this time round, the trip on the plane, presents enormous problems.
We'll probably get a heads up of maybe a year, 9 months, something like that, as to the tours happening. And then we'll go and have a meeting with Rod, and he'll give us maybe an album name or just a gem of an idea, which we'll then go away with and come up with some designs for the set.
A lot of the ideas do come from the band initially anyway, so we'll give them what ideas we have, and we'll, fairly well try and paint a picture for them, in words if you like, whatever. Sometimes I'll send them some images that I'll pull up, from wherever, just to give them some sort of basic idea of what I think the direction they should be going in.
The brief that we got, I think, was we need to have a space station that's at the dirty end of the universe. It has changed a little from this point, and it does extend a little more left and right. But the innovative thing was putting the large towers upstage left and right, which made the whole thing in the region of 100 feet across, which is pretty big.
Yeah, Hangman will send us initial drawings of what it's going to look like. We'll move that on a bit in terms until we're all happy, then they'll do a model, and then we'll sign it off and we'll start building it.
Then becomes a massive, intense period of drawing, CAD drawings, designing, artworking. Also talking to all the crew, talking to the tour manager, production managers, to make sure that not only does it look good, but that it will go on a truck or in a plane, will be easy to put up every night, easy to take down. And we've got artists here, sewers, computer graphics guys. Over at Metal Man we've got welders. And basically, it then all has to happen. And usually by that point, we've not got very long left.
It's always the same, I don't know why, but no matter how much time we seem to have on these things, it always seems to end up being that we ain't got hardly any time at the end of it.
We still use the drapes. It's just different. There are a lot of big screens around nowadays with wonderful pictures on everything else, but there's something more theatrical and dramatic about the drapes.
Yeah, we're just messing around with the colours, seeing how it brings out the most of the 3D effect of the drops. Okay, we're just doing a little demo here, looking at the new drapes, seeing how they're going to respond in under constant lighting conditions and getting the most out of them, and the band are checking them out.
The rest of it looks great, but he just needs to really stand out, and he doesn't. He's very flat.
It's very flat lighting at the moment, so
no,
I know it will make a difference.
No, I appreciate
but
and the figure itself needs to be dark. Like all the dark bits need to be like more black. So
up the contrast.
Okay, yeah, fine.
So you make the thing stand out.
Yeah, that's
kind of
problem.
And the last 2 months have been pretty much constant prepping for the around the world part. I mean, there's a lot of different lighting companies to deal with all over the world, and they have to recreate the show, you know, to the last light bulb, you know, from here to Jakarta. So it's quite a lot to do.
As you can see, these are the engine logos. These logos will be inboard and outboard, so whoever's flying on the aircraft will see the skull from the inside of the cabin. We acquired the graphics from Peacock Design. We take those graphics and we superimpose them onto a schematic of the aircraft. We scale everything up from the templates and we produce the graphics from there. It's a 10-year vinyl and it's quite a high-quality vinyl, which is like Formula One racing cars. From when it's printed and when the vinyl's actually cut, the next stop for us is to get all the graphics boxed up, ready to go, and sent to the hangar where Ed Force One will be applied.
Dying swans.
It's basically like a big jigsaw puzzle, so they use the drawing and it's all scaled up for the fin, and each section of decal is just placed up in position, and they start from the bottom corner and work their way forward and all the way up until you get the final bigger picture. To do the whole livery, including the fin, we're looking at about 3 to 4 days, depending on how many guys we got on it. So we're on schedule at the moment to finish by end of Wednesday, beginning of Thursday.
Paris in a rehearsal run, and we just finished rehearsal for the day. We've got one more rehearsal before we head off on Final Frontier Part 2.
The elements of the production are based around obviously what the set list is, and for the around the world leg, then obviously a lot of new places and a lot of new people we never played to. So you've got to be a bit more generous.
Talisman was a decision that we needed to make. When the Wild Wind Blows picked itself. And as for the rest of it, we thought we'd put a few more songs back in.
We circulate a copy of the set between us a couple of weeks before we actually get to rehearsal. You know you're going to be playing Hallowed Be Thy Name. You know you're going to be playing Iron Maiden. So it was just working in a couple of the new songs, really.
Bought it for 35.
Obviously, a lot of the older songs, they came back immediately, but songs like When the Wild Wind Blows are a little more involved, and there's a lot of highs and lows in the song.
Have you seen what they said on the news today? What is coming to us all?
Wild Wind Blows actually is a lot of fun to play live. It's got some really good grooves in it, and it's like, you know, your classic Maiden epic. So yeah, all good stuff. All, you know, looking forward to playing the new songs. It's always good fun for us. Keeps us on our toes. Just hope we can remember it all on the night.
Trying to get the set to gel all together was difficult because it was a very different paced set to the one that we're used to. In particular because, you know, we're going out and starting with a kind of a mid-tempo type number, and it requires a great deal of restraint on the part of the drumming department. You need to be focused and you need to be quite disciplined on where the set starts, because that way it can build and build and build throughout.
Yeah, I've been rehearsing for just over a week and a half now. And we've got one more tomorrow, more run through. And the new songs we're doing off the new album sounding really good. And yeah, we're all excited to be off we go, you know.
You find once you get out there, it's good fun, and you know, get in front of the audience and you connect with the audience again, and you find out, you know, you realise why you do it. When you're rehearsing in an empty room, you sometimes wonder why you do it, because this band just feeds off an audience, and it's, you know, that's where it comes alive.
You can rehearse till the cows come home, but it's only when you get on stage that first night and then everything falls into place.
We're feeling pretty confident, a little tentative on a few little bits here and there, but I mean that's always the way. And I think really, it'll take a couple of gigs before we really settle down. First one, I'd be a bit nervy as usual. When you're doing so much new material, then it's always a bit nerve-wracking. But yeah, basically, I mean, it's going well. Well, it has to really, doesn't it?
We're ready. We're ready now.
Well, here we are on Ed Force 1, or Ed Force 1.5, I suppose, because it's a different aeroplane this year. Because the registration was India Bravo last year. Well, we've put a different aeroplane on. It's about 10 years newer than the previous one. This one's Romeo X-Ray. So we've put in some nice business class seats. We've put in some new carpets for everything. We've cleaned everything and sorted everything out. It's not, I wouldn't say it was the lap of luxury, but it's jolly comfy. So here we are in what would normally be 60 passengers sitting in this compartment space, and a galley and a couple of toilets, everything else. They're all gone. We've lined it with a cargo liner, and there's various information on here in terms of the loading and how much load we can put in and where it's situated on the aircraft along the walls. To accomplish the loading, we've got these 5 steel plates here, which in effect are pallets. The load sits on those. We've got 5 of them, about a ton apiece, so about 5,000 kilos of stuff goes in here. The only restriction we have really is that everything has to be able to fit through the main doors. As long as it'll go through here, it'll go on board the aircraft. Morning. Dreadful, isn't it? Well, here we are on the embankment on our way to Stansted. I'm in civvies at the moment. Uniforms in the back, so I shall be finding a phone booth and having a convenient change of clothes. You believe a man can fly. So we. Be on our way to Moscow shortly, which I expect will be cold.
Figure 8 hours to load this the first time, because Jeremy has to find out where everything's going to go. We're bringing a bigger show to the fans this time.
It's all earmarked to go in the front hold, as and when I start packing it. It's a bit of a TARDIS. This is such a unique aircraft, and it's such a unique way of touring around the world, loading it on average anywhere between 4 to 5 hours. I have worked with lots of other bands, A-list bands, and I don't know of another act who would take this risk and would downsize their equipment to such a level. It's a high-risk strategy in terms of the people, the aircraft, the crew. Everything has to slot into place, and it's a big wheel. I'm just one small cog of that.
The amount of flying we're putting on the aeroplane is actually not that great, because we tend to fly and then the aeroplane sits on the ground for 24 or 48 hours whilst we go and do a gig, and then it flies again. So it only flies when it needs to for us. In normal service, one of these airplanes, we would be hoping to do about 350 hours a month if it was flying for an airline or a contract. We are only probably putting about 100 hours on the airplane in 2.5 months. And here is Stansted.
The thing that I think keeps everybody awake at night is thinking of what you haven't done. Because the band have been around for so long, but also because of the changes in the industry, there's a phenomenal amount of detail as compared to just the core of major things that probably were the key things in the business 30-odd years ago. And, you know, you're permanently worrying about, have you thought of every detail? Have you covered every detail off? In the various deals and transactions and things that are being set up.
In terms of flying, the most stressful things about flying on this particular tour are actually really not to do with the actual flying bits of it, they're to do with the administrative bits of it. Because so much of planning a tour like this is down to the admin of it. There's no real slack in any of it. It's not like, oh, we can come back tomorrow and get it to work. It's got to happen exactly on those days, and it's got to happen like clockwork.
There isn't much time in a civilization. Nobody is here to lead them to me. Must say my goodbyes, if only alone. A message to tell them in case they might find. For I have lived my life to the full. I have no regrets. But I wish I could talk to my family to tell them that one last goodbye. The final frontier. 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 The final frontier.
We're in Moscow, and it's snowing, and it's cold.
It's snowing and it's getting colder. Tomorrow will be much colder, unfortunately.
You never guess where I am. 3 degrees difference, 15, 18 degrees, who cares? It's bloody freezing. But look at this, what an amazing place. First place on the tour. What can I say? Nostrovia. How far did you come? How many miles?
It's 8-9 hour. Special for this concert. Special to meet him and special for Iron Man. Iron Man the best.
Band's been brilliant. They've all been waiting outside in freezing cold. God knows how they do it.
We stand here since 9 o'clock in the morning.
This is it. It's the old Olympic Arena, which is a massive building. Absolutely freezing outside, minus 20 degrees. So the doors have just opened out there, and some rather cold fans will start coming into here, but I'm sure we'll warm them up. It's good to get these tours rolling. You know, we've been planning it for months and months and months, of course, and it's great to finally get everyone out on the road.
So as you just saw, we had a little run through, a little demo version of the intro, going through a few ideas with Steve and Bruce and the rest of the guys there. I think we've got a little concept. Now we're going to put those ideas into some kind of comprehensive cue stack. So I'm not spinning plates at front of house tomorrow night on intro.
Lighting guy Rob is really good. I mean, he's a Maiden fan, so it makes a big difference that he's a fan of the band. And I think he knows what the band should be looking like and what the band want, kind of thing.
We've got about 80-odd moving lights, sort of split evenly between washes and spots. We've also got some of these great big wash lights with LED rings. They're show beams. They're really got 2.5K bulb in them. They're pretty punchy. We've got nice little LED strips around the chevrons that highlight the shapes of the truss. And we've got a good few hundred park hands thrown in just for a good measure, just to beef up the whole thing, not to mention all our audience, crowd blinders and follow spots. We don't bring anything, we just bring a lighting desk, that's it. All I've got is my lighting desk and these truss borders. Every single nut, bolt, bulb, cable is all supplied locally. I have to advance all this stuff, you know, a series of diagrams and equipment lists and everything else, 3D renderings and everything else you can think of, with about 30 individual lighting companies who all then kind of give me their interpretation of what I've asked, and then we have to sort of fine-tune it and end up with something resembling this every day. One of the hardest things is, no matter how much effort we put into all this and all the care and attention we put in, a big part of the show is the follow spots, and we're putting it in the hands of people that I've never met before who don't really speak English and definitely haven't seen Iron Maiden before. Upstairs and vamos. I can do it in French, Portuguese, Spanish and German, which has helped a hell of a lot, but my Russian and South Korean left a little to be... This has become a pretty busy part of the show now, right? Jesus. Getting stressed. Getting stressed, Nick.
Get the promoter to come and tell these 3 security guys that we've got to open these doors to get our stuff out.
One of the most important things to remember whenever you're doing a loadout, especially somewhere like Moscow, at 1 o'clock in the morning at about -18, is to make sure you're wearing some long trousers.
What I do want to do is make sure that the gear, that everyone's responsible to their gear. So if each department dedicates one person that, until that gear's locked up in the back of the truck. I mean, putting it to the dock or handing it off to Bill and the stagehands isn't good enough. I want eyes on that gear till it's locked, because as we know, like the last tour, shit will walk.
Let's go downtown, boys.
And where else are we worried about? Jakarta. Jakarta's going to be, is probably, as we're all fully aware, is the show that we're having the most trouble with at the moment. And that's basically because at the moment we don't have a show. We've been trying for months. We're going to send Uncle Dickie down there. He's going to leave tomorrow, so that'll either make it better or worse. I don't know. We'll
So here we have a show 2 on the Iron Maiden Around the World Tour. Last night at 9 o'clock, they tore down Eric Clapton and began to build our show.
I came down a couple of months ago and did a site visit, had a quick look around the venue, went and met the sound company, went through all the monitor rig with them because they were offering me something I hadn't used before, so I wanted to listen to it. So I came down, had a day out here, which is nice. Had a listen to the gear, which was fine. We basically carry Bruce's wedges and we carry the drum fill, we carry the desks and everything that connects the desks together. And then the local companies supply us racks and stacks, basically, amplifiers and speakers. And we have a list of what we like to use. We send that out. They send us a list back saying, we don't have this, we have that system, we don't have that system. And this just goes backwards and forwards until we get to a point where everybody's happy. Then we turn up on the day and hopefully they turn up with the same gear they've told us they're going to bring us. So we're going into a venue every day using a completely different system, and we just got to make it work, and make it work so the band are happy on stage.
Well, with any luck, if we get all this right, it all plugs in on a daily basis, turns on and fires up, no problems. But that's the importance of the prep. Most of it's all about the prep work.
We supply the sound equipment that Iron Maiden use when they go on tour. There are discussions as to what's logistically possible as far as sound is concerned, moving the systems. When we would send out a technician on the tour, Mike Hackman, he designs the system for each venue that he goes into, because each venue is a different shape, it's a different size, and has different acoustics. Sound department has 20 pieces, which includes the consoles, the ancillary racks, the multi-core system, and some essential key man monitoring. We've changed the consoles to digital consoles, so they're small enough, they're compact, and we know that they're going to fit into the aircraft. So we've got 2 ton on the plane.
For me to get the channels from the stage into here, to get them out to him because he wants them in specific channels that he's already set up for his MADI, I'm going to have to soft patch it all on the front of here.
That's what I'll do.
Usually once we've done all this in the warehouse, it works, and it's very rare we have to mess with anything. Obviously we do get things go down, mics go off, mic cables go down, channels on the multi-pins pack up, you deal with it. Basically I look after the whole stage end of the show, so if anything goes down, it's down to me to be able to fix it. This is my world and everybody else keeps out of it. And I'm now going to attempt to patch it so stuff goes where it's supposed to do. And then line 3 wants to show up in channel 33. I can't count. 16. We're done. It wasn't actually that quick. He just edited all the long swearing bits out in the middle.
After today we're going to fly to Indonesia, Jakarta, and in fact probably the first time that a production of this size and a band of this size have actually played there in a long time. And that has been a challenging show. We're going to have to make the show work. Bali's a smaller venue. At the moment they don't have enough PA on the island to actually fulfill our requirements. So at the moment they're looking for more PA, and we really won't know how good that PA is until we actually get there, plug it in and make some noise through it.
We had a lot of problems up front. I didn't actually decide finally until about 2 days before we're due to arrive there that we were going to go. Dickie had to go out from Moscow early to try to put a crew together. He had to get a new production manager and almost start from scratch. I mean, I had a sleepless night about 3 nights before, wondering, are we going to do this or not?
Welcome to Jakarta, yeah! We're from Indonesia. We love you. Up the iron. Maiden is my religion.
We're waiting. Maiden come here almost 20 years.
All my friends in Indonesia, they come from every single city from different direction. They finally found their idol in here. They forget their religion, they forget their skin, they forget everything. They just want to hear and sing Iron Maiden song.
You wouldn't call this our normal stage. This is the show we've had a lot of trouble sort of getting together. Really nice people, they haven't done many shows here. The stage is made up all sorts of different steel and towers and trusses, and there's like loads of it back here. That's all rusty. It's all a little bit bent.
Oh, this stage has got a hell of a slope on it.
I spent 2 months asking them if there's any layer scaffolding available. They told me there wasn't. This is the first thing I found when I walked into the building. Loads of it. When you hit it, it comes white smoke. It's a fire extinguisher. What you have is the wrong stuff. You just brought CO2 gas. Is there a fire station near here? Yeah. Some firemen? Yeah. That's the show power right there, the whole lot. Don't fall fall into that. That's all live. That whole thing is live. You know, obviously what we're used to is a door that's closed. When you open it, it disconnects everything, makes it safe. This is completely live, the whole lot. And if it rains, it's going to be getting wet. Standard procedure, it's a bomb dog. We're going to go ahead and check the production office for bombs, and we're doing it all over the venue. And it's serious, you know, it's a serious threat.
There's no time to prepare.
So there we go, the dressing rooms are safe, and we didn't find any bombs in there, which is nice to know.
Some tours go dead easy, some go a little bit awry. And as you know, in Indonesia, there were a few hiccups there.
What have you got in here?
Oh my God.
This isn't the same as the photograph that we sent you.
What was very heartening for me was I talked to Dickie, and a couple of days before, he's getting all very defensive about the production crew there, saying, well, they're really nice people, the most wonderful people, and they're trying really hard. From really this nightmare scenario of 3 days before, then it ended out to be a pretty cracking show.
It's safe. It's nice, you can't listen. I haven't been out much due to the fact someone said I might get kidnapped.
Gig in the end. Thought it was going to be one of the worst and a bit of a nightmare, but it's turned out all right. Tower's still standing, set's still standing. It was all pretty good, nice easy day.
Yeah, good gig. Went really well actually. Got the full show up, all the drapes. The only thing that was missing was probably the CO2 effect. They just brought us the wrong stuff basically. But yeah, we're all a bit tired and we're heading off to Bali next for our second Indonesian show. So, and we're getting bitten by mosquitoes. Nighty night.
Playing in Bali was absolutely tremendous, and the feeling that they generated, a beautiful culture, beautiful nation of people there. So it really had a kind of spiritual feel about that show.
It's definitely unusual here. We don't usually play quarries, but as you can see, we've got really high walls here, so it's actually like playing in a cardboard box without a roof on top of it. So what we try to do is aim the PA so that it doesn't bounce off the walls too much, because as you can see, what's going to happen, the sound hits that wall, then it hits that wall, then it hits that wall, and then comes back at us.
I mixed the audio for Iron Maiden since December '79 for the public. I mixed the out front, they call it front of house sound. I mix for what the audience hears. From here, I can make it sound real good, but I can't say what's happening up in that corner of the room or that part of the ballpark or whatever. So it's Mike's job to make sure that what I'm doing here gets to all the people.
Expectations for sound these days are a lot higher. The sound systems are much, much better, and I think the audience, they listen to the sound all the time now on CDs. 10, 15 years ago was a different story. If you sat at the back of one of these places, you didn't really expect to hear it quite so well. So here we have the actual main PA system. We have two hangs per side for this system. One covers the main front part of the audience. Now another hang exactly the same size covers the outer part of the audience. So we have 4 delay speakers. Now where we're standing here, we're probably something like 80 to 90 metres from the PA. If you were seeing the band in a normal big arena, sports arena, you'd be at the very back at this position. If you look up to the back here, we've probably got about another 100 metres of throw to the very back. So what we do is we put in another set of speakers. We have two sets here that cover the very back of the arena. And then we have speakers at the side that cover the very top sides of the arena. Obviously there's big distances between all the different speakers, so the first job is to ensure that all those speakers are all lined up. The sound from every speaker reaches the audience at exactly the same time. Then once I have it aligned, my job's to tune the system and make the system itself sound good for the room, so that when we then put the mix through it, it hopefully then sounds good and we get a good interpretation of Doug's mix to every seat in the house.
While Mike is doing his time alignment, I'm typically on stage putting the mics on the drum kit, the back line, that sort of stuff, doing that wiring up thing. backline guys will make some noise from each of their guys' rigs, you know, guitars, Van Boom on the drums, Michael plays the keyboards and that, to where they're all happy with their equipment. Then we do a full-on sound check, do my last little tweakette until it's actually as close as I can get, barring not having an audience in the room or in the field, for Iron Maiden readiness.
Seven shows in Australia. It's like a mini tour. We've taken on an Aussie crew, we've got our own lighting crew, we've got our own sound crew, we've got our own trucks for the next 7 shows, which is going to be really nice. It's going to be like more like the regular touring like we do in US and Europe. We'll still be using the plane, the crew will be traveling on the plane, but all our equipment will be in the trucks.
I'll tell you the biggest problem I have right now is we're not putting equipment in the plane, so that means we all have to sit in the back of the plane for takeoff because there's not enough weight. That's my biggest logistical problem. I've got 3 48-foot trucks. We carry our set in 1.5 of them. We carry extra lighting in the other half, and then we carry our backline and monitors in front of house in the third one. It's pretty much a breeze to load in and out. We flew over our set, our rolling set, because we need to get out of the way on a festival situation so other bands can play in front of us.
As you can see, we're having fun with our own stage set. When we were back in Norfolk all those months ago, loading a sea container with a stage set. Well, this is it in Australia, and we're using this throughout this leg. And it saves people building one for us, which is very nice.
So much easier. It has wheels for a start, and all the backline can live in it. All the cabs and all the decorations, everything can all live in there.
We're getting in here early so we can get the set here and work out how it's all going to fit in with everyone else. We got Sydney, the festival tomorrow. We don't get there till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The doors are already open, the show's already started, so we need to build our set behind a backdrop, and it's just Bill's job and the local stage manager's Dougal's to keep it organised, because really, really quickly it could turn into a complete cluster.
Festival is a festival at the end of the day. It's one of those days where you can do so much and you have to wait for all the bands to get off stage, and then you hope and pray that everything's working fine, because you haven't had that much time during the day, because obviously you haven't had the stage. Because everybody else has been on there, you just hope and pray everything's working.
We're trying to make some noise by 6 o'clock, so I've only got about an hour and 10 minutes to get it all going for Doug.
This whole last bit of the tour has been pretty elastic. Doing, say, festivals, for example, we do a back-to-back festival, we might not get there until, I don't know, 10:30, 11 in the morning, and the doors are at 2. So it's like panic. What comes off the truck first, whatever it is, go ahead and set that up.
Obviously, it's not just about ourselves today, there's an awful lot of other bands on, so it's going to be a real tough one. We could probably be here for another 10, 12 hours overnight tonight just to get this stuff built, but that's what we have to do.
Yeah, just waiting for these lights to go up, and then we'll bring the carts in, try and get the set built as much as we can tonight. And now this is the fun part of festivals, where we have to take certain bits of it apart and move it for the other bands to get on and off. Luckily, on this one, we're hoping we can leave the riser and the 2 backline carts.
The next problem that's created because of this is normally when we would roll these carts on, we'd have room here. But obviously today we have the structure. So where the guitar amps would live here, Sean Brady's well looked after Adrian Smith, that cart's going to come crashing straight through it. So we've got to make sure that we let everybody know, because they're going to build all their world tomorrow while we're not here. That's the thing we do in festivals. Every day we have to change a plot. Every day there's a new problem.
Here we are at Soundwave, the first day, Brisbane, 47,500, sold out a while ago. A lot of great bands. We're going to play a whole load of people we haven't played to before. We've only played Brisbane once in the last 20 odd years. That was last time we did about 12,000 people. So there's got to be bigger than the Travellers. 30,000 haven't seen us before, so it's going to be interesting, it's going to be fun. It's always good to play to a new audience because it makes them work hard to get them into the family. Makes expecting a really good day.
The event's going really well. With Maiden this year, it's the biggest one we've ever had.
When we were in the planning stage about a year or so ago, we knew that we were going to be in Australia around this time of year. I suggested to management that perhaps we should look at playing the festivals rather than do our own arena shows here.
Maiden's definitely the biggest act we've had on the bill. We've had to increase the size of our stages this year to accommodate them. Start working on this probably about June each year, slowly building up as the year goes on. We're going to move 70 bands, 8 stages overnight. We have 2 sets of production, 2 sets of light, sound, video, staging, which leapfrog themselves around the country.
I'm just a mere pawn in the whole organisation, but at the moment we're doing the packs for all the workers. I think we're doing around 1,500 meals for the whole day, between workers and bands as well.
Roughly how much beer have you got here?
Truckloads, probably 2 or 3 semi-loads.
There you go.
A lot of beer.
Australia's been really successful. It's great. We lucked out with the weather. I think everything's ticking over quite well now. We've got ourselves into the groove a bit, and here we are. And this is a Monday, so it's like a national holiday here in Australia, and the place is completely sold out in Perth.
Always loved playing Australia. The Soundwave festivals were fantastic. Backstage was really nice, and we had, with that guy turn up with weird animals and seeing other bands, which it's nice to do gigs with other bands because normally kind of quite isolated. We do our shows, we got our audience, which is great, but it's nice to get the energy. There's a different energy at those festivals.
Happy birthday,
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday to you.
We'll do this just for the camera, not too many more.
Late loading, so it's going to be rush for us tomorrow. We just land straight for the gig, and then if the trucks are there, load it in straight away. We're looking at about 1 o'clock, I believe.
Come down.
The chain hook has come out the top of the piece. There's no way of lifting this up. We have to lift this up to dismantle it.
Robbie, clip yourself in there, right? I'm going to send you up a rope.
There's no physical structure there. There's just the actual curtain side of the stage. And obviously working up there in the dark with no safety rails and stuff, they've got to stay clipped on to at least 2 points. If one of them guys falls, that's no rock and roll show's worth that. So yeah, literally is that classic story of safety first, mate, you know. Andy's just putting a rope across it now just so we can keep the weight of the tower. The danger is with the chain that's on it could swing about 20 foot across the stage, hit some of the lights, bring the lights down on everybody. So it's slowly catching monkey on this one, I'm afraid. Nobody got hurt, mate. Most important thing. Nothing else really matters today, Andy.
Yeah, serious pack up this time. We have to trim down back to our fighting weight of 12 tons. So that means our rolling set has to be packed into a sea container to go forth to England for the summer tour. And then there's the normal stuff that goes into the back of Ed Force One. So it'll be a little bit longer loadout and more breaking apart of things that normally we just throw right in the truck, use it the next day. My boys did an hour and 15-minute loadout the last show. It was really, really good.
That's good. Good night, Australia.
February the 9th, we started this part of the tour, and today we're in Adelaide. It's 6th of March, and so far it's 18,000 shots. I'm averaging about 1,000 pictures per show, and then you've got all the shots that come outside of that with the plane, with the load-ins and the hotels and things like that. But at the moment it's 18,000, and my job is to edit them down to the cream of the crop, and they're the ones that go out. And we're just about to take some nice portraits of the band in front of the plane, and you would think this sort of thing would be simple, but it isn't. It involves many people clearing runways and taxiways, getting special permission to park the plane here, so we haven't got a load of clutter behind it. And also we're getting the wind moved, so it's blowing in the other direction, so it'll be better for the pictures. If only that was true.
Bobby started working on this 4 months before the start of the tour, and you've got to look at everything from runway slots, traffic lights, which airports you can actually fly this type of aircraft into. Some of these airports are really difficult to land at the times Iron Maiden require us into, so you have to do a lot of negotiations with airports and their marketing teams, and also work closely with the promoters.
I've been working on the catering side of things for the plane for about a month prior to us actually leaving Stansted, so we've had a thorough scout through all the menus that have been supplied by all the various catering companies, and hopefully come up with a really concise and varied menu for each of the flights that we take on Ed Force One.
So we always uplift water for the passengers, water for the crew, just making sure they're getting that. The milks for our teas and coffees, any extras, orange juice.
And as you know, quite a lot of drinks are consumed on board this throughout the tour. We talk about all the logistics and transport and how we're going to put everything together and kind of ensure that all the vehicles are at the airport waiting for the band.
Working out the logistics of once we get to the country, how we get into the venues, how we get into the hotels. And all of that is all planned in advance as well, which Steve Gadd does for me.
From the minute we land, you get away from the airport where there's up to 1,000 people there watching the plane coming in. Then you think you're out of Dodge, but you're not, because you get to the hotel and there's 400 or 500 people been camped out the hotel for a couple of days. And, you know, so the band will always sign their autographs and stuff like that. So you get them in the rooms, and once you get the guys in the rooms, it's like, job done.
We then headed to Japan, which was a really exciting time for us. We were going to do 2 shows in Tokyo. Everyone was looking forward to the shows so much, and certainly from the advance point of view, everything had gone very smoothly, and everything was in place for the 2 Tokyo shows.
We were up in the air about 10 minutes away from landing at Tokyo when they had a massive earthquake.
We don't have any further details on the earthquake at the moment, simply that obviously it's fairly serious. The whole of the airports in the region are closed, and there is no determination as to when they will be able to accept aircraft. Air traffic control, as you can imagine, is under quite some stress at the moment. We have made the decision early to go to Nagoya, where we can get on the ground and find out what the situation is, put some more petrol on the aeroplane, and then see how we can resolve the situation.
We've landed now in Nagoya. A lot of airplanes all diverting. It sounds very serious. It's an 8.8 magnitude quake. Just north of Narita.
We can't get hold of anyone in Tokyo. All the phone lines are down, I got through to a landline, but there was a recorded message in Japanese, which of course I don't understand.
If there's going to be a show, I think the sensible thing at the moment for us would probably be to leave the airplane here, truck the equipment in and out if there's going to be a show. But by the sounds of it, that's sounding increasingly unlikely.
You know, the show must go on, but we really don't know what's happening at the moment. So it's a question of, do we stay here? The airports are still closed. Both airports are closed in Tokyo. So that means there's something relatively serious, and we'll figure out.
There's a rumour that there's a 20-metre tsunami. Now, how? We just don't know at the moment.
So here we are, you know, it's the morning after, we're still having shakes and quakes and stuff going on, aftershocks, but we're in Nagoya, you know, it's safe. We're about to get back in on our buses. We're going to head back to the aeroplane now that we've got a game plan and a decision, and we're going to fly on to Mexico and via Hawaii.
Hello.
That morning, the first show was cancelled. It seemed fairly obvious as the news unfolded that the second show would be cancelled. In light of everything else, that's all pretty secondary. We just send our love and best wishes to all Japanese fans and Japanese people.
It's a digital desk. It's got capabilities of 120 inputs, 30 outputs. We actually use 22 of those. There's actually 20 mixes, so everything's different. Totally different. The band want to hear certain things. If they can't hear a certain thing on the side of the stage, they'll want to listen to that. We actually go around and make sure everything's working properly, so it's all blending hopefully together. Then I get the guys to actually make some noise.
We can't bring a lot of our cases, trunks and things, so all the guitars, keyboards have to travel separately. I had to clear out about a third of my work box to make space for other people and to get the weight down. I think the best way to talk about things with Steve is there's very little to say, which is how he prefers it. And I've been with him a long time. I pretty much anticipate what he might be wanting.
He knows more about my gear than I do, and I'm lost without him. He also plays keyboards, as most people know.
I don't actually consider myself to be a keyboard player as such, but I can do the stuff that Maiden requires, and some of it's not simple.
Here's the Annex rig. We've got all sorts of things in there. You've got wireless. He uses wireless on a couple of songs like Iron Maiden, when he likes to swing the guitar around his head. This is a Pete Cornish unit. It's got pedals built into it, and I control the pedals from here.
Justin Garrick, the man who looks after all my gear, does a fantastic job. He presses all the buttons for me, gets all the things together, and he fixes the guitars, fixes the amps, and there's a lot of fixing to be done.
So on tour we have to bring spares for everything. I mean, even on this tour I've changed a pickup on this tour. Volume pots, things like this go when, you know, you spin them around, throw them, sweat gets in them. So all these things get changed out, so we have spares. It's not a daily thing, but it's things that may happen once on a tour.
And he's a very competent guy. And not only that, he's worked with Ronnie Wood, he's worked with Razor Light. He's a tremendous asset to Iron Maiden, and I'm really thankful that we found him.
Welcome to my world. My name is Sean Brady, and I'm Adrian Smith's butler.
I rely on Sean a lot because my setup is not very high tech. So, you know, if I'm taking a solo, for example, Sean usually punches my effects in. It's also a question of, you know, the less wiring you have on stage, the better the sound.
It's a 100-watt amplifier, of course, not a 50, and not even 101, because we don't go to 11 here. As you can see, we only go to 10. We've looked into 11, but it has been patented by a certain other English rock act.
Yeah, Sean puts up with my my moods now and again, you know, when things aren't going well and calms me down a bit, and we have a good rapport, you know.
Usually I have masses of gear. You never know what you're going to need, but you know, we work it out down to pretty much the nearest amount of strings we're going to need.
Colin, my guitar tech, has been absolutely tremendous. We've been with me now for a few years, and we have a great working relationship. He kind of knows what the sound I'm looking for.
Everybody keeps coming along and making notes of all these dials to get that perfect Davy tone, and I just keep doing that because none of them work.
We're up there to do a job and to play, but then at the same time, though, we have a laugh.
The difference is I have 6 flight cases when we do a normal tour with trucks in Europe and America. On this, I've got, I think it's 26 pieces.
Charlie's been with me now for, I can't remember, 8 years, something like that, maybe 9. He's fantastic drum tech. He's the only drum tech I've ever had that I allowed to tune my drums for me. I showed him how I tuned them and tone-wise difference between each drum.
The tuning's got to be bang on, and when you've got 9 toms, you know what I mean, it's just quite difficult. And the cymbals, just the angles of everything, he notices everything. He'll sit there sometimes, just close his eyes and just do this with a stick, and he'll straight away, you're talking a couple of millimetres.
But it really is very essential because it's like a precision instrument, my drum kit. If one part of it's out, the whole thing's completely... I'll sit there and if one thing is out on this side of the drum, by the time you get up here, it's way out of position. But Charlie is very, very good.
Oh yeah! Fucking great audience, phenomenal. This is for the people in Japan tonight.
When I stand and look about the port and contemplate my life.
We're in Monterrey, Mexico. It's really early o'clock in the morning. We're basically out of bed at 4 o'clock, 3:30. After a great show last night, by the time we loaded and got to bed, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. So you do the math, it's about 3 hours sleep for some. We're lucky.
You know, it's tough because you're doing lots of flights. The crew sleep less than probably we do, but, you know, they just try and cram in a bit of sleep here and there. You find odd guys lying across flight cases and things like that, just trying to grab a couple of hours sleep here and there, because it's quite tough on them.
Right, so here I am, just collecting the washing that I don't want to put in the dryer, just stuff that's air-dried. That's still a bit wet. Oh, and of course my washing, obviously. I just basically look after the band, as in stage clothes wise, but if they ever need anything, I'm usually the run and fetch things if they need it. And I describe this job as balancing 6 plates. This is my wardrobe room today. It's a bit dark and a bit messy. I would go in the day before to allocate the rooms, talk to the necessary people about what furniture goes in which room, talk to the caterers who are doing the riders for the band lounge to give them a head start as well, so that when I do come in the morning, everything's ready. Usually I'll have the worry of how I'm going to get the washing done as well, so I don't want to waste time. So this is the lounge area. They've done a pretty good job today. It's always different every show. Sometimes I have to hound them, but today I didn't have to, just went through the rider with them. They were pretty clear on everything. These are the drum heads, so I have a stash and put out 3 every show for Nicker to sign so that he can throw them out at the end of the show.
So we arrived here yesterday, arrived late last night from Lima, Peru on Air Force One. Came in early this morning. We've got gear coming from all over. We've got the big Eddies coming on the sea container from the UK. We had towers that we flew air freight over from Australia. We have the boat that's back out, and we have some other bits and pieces. So it's a full production Maiden show, hence the extra day. We also have our moving motors, which is we have parts of the lighting rig move, sort of give it that spaceship effect. You know, we don't have the luxury of using that everywhere we go, basically because the technology that you need to use it, it's not available everywhere, you just can't get it, and it's quite costly to fly it around, but we do have it for these big shows.
We've been going through this tour with basic set and 6 drapes, but there's 4 shows here, Sao Paulo, Rio, Chile and Argentina, which will put a full show in, which includes 2 other drapes. We've got the Devil Goat and, of course, the Big Eddie at the back.
Big Eddie is in those 2 carts.
Big Eddie is a one-off, bespoke, great big fiberglass and metal structure that comes together in the 2 biggest boxes you've ever seen in your life.
Big Eddie was something that really kind of came from a similar idea that we had when we did Fear of the Dark.
Go away, I'm leg to hill.
Pre-production, I saw it from back by the sound desk, and I think it looks probably better there than it does close up, because I'm looking at it from close up.
Doesn't it? It looks great when it goes down at the end.
I think the effect from out front, especially further back, I think it looks huge. It's a weird effect because you think it would look bigger when you're closer up, but when you're further back, you get the whole vibe of it, and it just makes the stage look really 3D, and I think it works really well.
Going to places that on a normal routing tour you would never ever go to, you'd fly over. And so we find ourselves in places like Belém in North Brazil, just on the edge of the rainforest, and my goodness, did it rain.
They don't call it the rainforest for nothing, I suppose. This is the second day of torrential rain we've had. Pretty typical for this area, although a little stronger than normal, we've been told. You know, it builds up, all the heat comes out the jungle, moisture comes into the air, and then about 2:30 in the afternoon it all falls out again, and today it's falling on top of us. So anyway, loads of plastic, loads of sweeping, trying to keep the equipment dry, lots of mosquitoes, dengue fever, torrential rains. So yeah, definitely beats a 9-to-5 job, I can tell you that much. We're about 3.5 hours away from doors, and there's some more thunder. And it'll be another great show tonight. You know, it's going to be packed out. Really excited Brazilian fans have not seen Maiden yet in this area. In fact, very few bands have actually been up this way. So that adds some extra excitement for some lifelong Maiden fans that are going to get to see them for the first time up here in the Amazon Basin, in the jungles of Brazil.
Somebody who will remain nameless decided to film a new DVD in Santiago and Buenos Aires due to the fact of the good crowd reactions and such. All the logistics were put together, months and months, sea containing out the Big Eddie, air freighting in the towers, extra drapes.
We did Rock in Rio, but it just seemed the turn to go further south. It's a long way to go down to Buenos Aires and Santiago, but the audiences are equally wonderful.
It's a big endeavour shooting DVD. Logistically, it makes it more complex. There's more people out there, more mouths to feed, more cameras in the audience, a lot more dealings with local authorities and approvals. But it's all in a day's work, you know. We plan accordingly and stay ahead of the game and make sure it's smooth and it all comes off the way we want it to on the day.
When they found them, had their arms wrapped around each other, tins of poison lying near by their clothes. The day they both mistook an earthquake for the fallout, just another when the wild wind blows.
Six o'clock in the morning we got up, and as you can see it's still dark, looks more like the end of a loadout than a load-in. Yeah, early start today. Big show. Crew's been at it all night. We were down here yesterday. Yeah, this is Chile's national stadium. They were going to pull it down, but then they decided to keep it as a monument. A monument to all the people that were killed in here by Pinochet. This is one of the places where he executed thousands of people. They reckon up to 100,000 people were killed in his during his dictatorship. That was not that long ago, 1973. But we're here for something a bit more lively.
It can be quite distracting. You've got, I think there was 20 or 30 cameras. Every note, every move you make's being recorded. But you just got to try and forget about it.
Well, we recorded 47 channels of audio. Each guitar has 2 mics on each cabinet. There's 16 mics on the drums, keyboards, and again, like lots of audience, vocals, all added up to 47.
Because there's limited space on the plane, we have quite a small and compact and sophisticated recording system which takes feeds from the front desk, and we record everything digitally, and then we have a few other 7 or 11 different microphones around to capture the audience. The audience is an integral part of the Maiden experience. I mean, the audience is something else. They sing every song, every lyric. It's something to see. The Santiago crowd is particularly animated. 60,000 people, and I don't think there was anyone that wasn't singing along with them.
It was unbelievable tonight. The crowd here was 60,000 people. This was something special. I mean, I thought Buenos Aires would be something to beat, but tonight was absolutely incredible.
I think it was a tremendous night, actually, and I think the band played really good. I came off of both those shows. I felt good about them myself.
It's nice to have a memento of, that was us at this time, that was me at this time.
I mean, lucky enough this time we've got 2 shows to choose from, and we'll use stuff from both shows, I'm sure. I mean, the audience were fantastic both nights, so it's, they are 2 of the best audiences in the world, without a doubt, which is why we wanted to do them there.
Here we are, we're about to launch off into sort of a murky Chile towards Puerto Rico. Out of here, obviously, 7 hours and 16 minutes on the flight plan, going to Chile, going over the Andes pretty much straight away. Speed of the beast. Touch the sun, yeah.
Because of the size of the Iron Maiden shows, screens are a really important part of the production. We use a total of 8 cameras, 4 main cameras looking at all the band members, which you have to direct and cue.
Finishing on 4.
We carry 3 mini cameras of our own, which go on Nico. There is 1 other camera, which of course Eddie has, which gives us a good show to the screens.
Do you know the band very well? If you know the band by name, it makes life easy for me, but if not, we can do it by a number system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across stage. This one you don't have to worry about because we have our own cameras. Do you need to translate? Or?
We're here in Puerto Rico, 3 shows from the end. We've had some interesting challenges along the way with language barriers. With a lot of these countries, you get what you're given. And some of the kit I've seen has been hysterical. I mean, it's like early 80s, so you do have to take the rough with the smooth.
This has been slightly easier here in Puerto Rico. It's been a very good meeting. We have had pretty interesting ones in South America, but this is a good one, and I've got a good feeling about the show tonight.
So to do 2 shows in Florida was great, and to finish off in Tampa, we hadn't been for 20 years or so. Capped off the tour well. I think at the end everyone was pretty well about time to go home.
And we're back in America now. We've been through Chile again, which was a fantastic gig. We've done Puerto Rico, and now we're in Florida doing the last 2 gigs, and it's been an absolutely fantastic tour.
It's not been the longest tour by any means, but for some strange reason doing it on Air Force One magnifies everything. You really are living in a fishbowl. You spend time with everybody every day for months on end when you're on tour. Time zone to time zone, different languages, different cultures. Every day the equipment's different, and we're all trying to make the show look and sound the same.
To the left, but I'll take his tail. The player must get better, I'll run it through. So when you're waiting for the next attack, it better stand, there's no turning back.
Been 10 weeks. And then we get a few weeks rest and then do it all again in Europe.
I'm surprised. It seems to have flown. No pun intended there. Australia was a bit tough. That was the gig, the flag gig. It was just no sleep, no rest. I've had chest infections and colds and like most of the time. But having said that, it's been great.
It's been great. It's been really good. Spirits have been high. I think the band's enjoyed it as well.
All in all, I've had a blast. We're still standing, you know, it might have aged a little bit, maybe a few chinks in the armour. Every night has been absolutely tremendous, you know, and it's hard to determine one night was better than another because they're all great.
Apart from leaking roofs and things like that and getting in late to some places. I mean, the way we look at it, it's just that every show happened, nothing broke. We had no real disaster, so I mean, it's a success really, and that's all you can hope for, doing the job.
We've been out for 9.5 weeks. It's been a pretty exciting challenge, to be honest, especially throwing in a big DVD shoot in the middle in Argentina and Chile.
There's all the pre-work, the money, the agreements, the hotels being provided, which hotels, when can you land, there's all that pre-work. But to actually make the tour work, it's the crew who make it work.
On this particular tour as well, as we've been travelling together on Air Force One, you know, with a 50-odd crew guys and a band all travelling on a plane, there's a real thing where everyone kind of bonds more.
We've got a good, really fantastic crew, and they all know what's needed. They're all trying their hardest to get the show looking the best it can be, and that's all we can ask of anybody, really.
Yeah, we're all mates. We all watch each other's backs in difficult situations. As part of what it takes to be in the Killer Crew, I'm sure it's what makes us the best.
You know, we're all very loyal to Maiden because they are to us. It really is like one big family. I wouldn't say one big happy family all the time.
There we go. This'll learn you.
To put that amount of people together is quite a contrived scenario, but when you think about it, it's like any other regular family, but we're not related. We're related through rock and roll.
It's been a great tour. We've done a lot of miles, time for a break, recharge the batteries and get home and put a few shelves up. Bit of paint and decorate.
The concerts were pretty well all very enjoyable. That's the main thing for the guys. They love playing. They're there to do the concerts. But I think as well, we had time off in some beautiful places, some new places, some interesting places.
When I stand before you shining in the early morning sun, when I feel the engines roar and I think of what we've done.
Well, it's the longest we've ever done, actually. It felt like a really, really long time to be away. Considering the first one was not much more than 6 weeks, 6 or 3 weeks, you know.
It's equivalent to 50,000 miles. We've been around the planet twice in a couple of months. You know, obviously we've spent a lot of it in South America. Whenever you go back, although we've been to a lot of these places before, it always feels new. And then so especially the audiences as well. They seem to be getting younger.
Nothing's perfect in this world, and you know, we try to be the best you can be. But at the end of the day, I think we've gone out there and we've done the best we can in the given circumstances with quite a lot against us on this tour. and I think we've, come out well on it.
It's been grueling. I mean, we started in Russia, we've been through Australia, we did Japan. So we started off -35, and I think we're in the 90s now, so we've done that whole temperature change thing. So it's been a fantastic tour, and I'd just like to say thank you all for coming to the gigs.
I've got to say, hats off. If I had a hat on, I'd take it off to everybody behind the scenes, our management team, everybody that was involved with making it work, and especially our killer crew, because they worked over and above the call of duty, because it was hard on us, so it's got to have been at least 3 or 4 times harder for them. Thank you to all you fans, but primarily this thank you goes out to all the people that made that tour possible.
We boldly went beyond the final frontier, space, and live long and prosper.
The things that you got up against with a plane, that was a fantastic way to travel, don't get me wrong, and people go, oh, what's he talking about, you're on a private plane? Well, yeah, we're on a private plane, but the distances are like, 10 hours or flight or whatever. I mean, we actually went through the date line from Japan to Hawaii and Mexico, and we actually got there before we left. I mean, work that one out. I actually had 2 days' birthdays, and who wants that at my age?
See all them names on that side of the plane there? It doesn't say England on the bottom, but that's where we're going, and that's where I'm looking forward to be.
Coming home!
Is this the bus home, Mum?
Bus home. The flying bus home.
Yes, baby, yeah.
Success, triumph, again. It's been an emotional roller coaster ride.
I'm going home after my time. I don't want to go. Not finished yet.
That's it, it's all over.
When I see the runway